New Year's resolutions. That's what we're going to talk about today. So, with ADHD, what I want to talk about first, before anything, 8% of people who make resolutions actually keep them. So, that is the study. This is everyone, not just ADHD. So, 8% of people who make New Year's resolutions actually keep them. And I'm curious if you want to type in the chat or raise your hand. Is anybody here made a New Year's resolution? This could also be like an intention, right? So if you don't have a New Year's resolution, or you're not doing this on January 1st, I'm doing this one thing. Think of this more like an intention for the year, right? Like something you want to shift in your world, and look at it through that lens, because that's really what New Year's resolutions are. In a sense, it's kind of like a fresh new year. And so, how do I want to show up differently, and what I want to feel like, and what I want my business to look like? And so, think of it that way. And so the main thing is to kind of look at, like, first off, why do New Year's resolutions fail, especially with ADHD? Because we want to see what are the things that might pull us back and stop us from hitting what we need to hit. And so a lot of times New Year's resolutions, or let's say goals, assume that you need this really high self-discipline. You need consistent motivation. You need, long-term working memory. You've got to remember all this stuff. And so that high discipline, that consistent motivation, long-term memory stuff, we got to remember these details. A lot of times with an ADHD or neurotypical brain, we don't really run on willpower per se, or like linear planning or being consistent, right? Every single day, do the same thing. We can, it's just not always the baseline. And then delayed reward. Right? Delayed reward is not always what motivates us. So just willpower, linear planning, the same thing every day at the same time, and a delayed reward is usually not like fun, right? It doesn't always work for us. And so that's why I think, especially with New Year's resolutions, it fail. So a lot of times our ADHD brain, right, we're running off of things that give us dopamine. And that's where we come up with the acronym INCUP, which stands for interesting, new, challenging, urgent, and passion. So if something's interesting, if it's new, if it's challenging, if it's urgent, if it's a passion, that's going to give you dopamine. You're not going to need willpower for that, right? You're going to have motivation going. You're not going to need to have a delayed reward, because you're getting the reward right then, because you're getting the dopamine and it's fun and it's great. And you're not going to need to like consistently schedule it every day at the same time, because you already want to do it, right? You're already motivated to do it. And so that's, I think, where as a coach, where people have kind of fallen off with goals, is they have the expectations of their brain working a certain way, because that's what society tells us, or that's what we've learned, instead of embracing how our brains do work. And so that's, again, we want to go into something that is interesting for us. That's what's going to help us. If it's interesting, if we're learning something, if it's new, if it feels new, or novel, if it's urgent, right? If there's a deadline or a risk. And so, for example, if someone said, let's say a popular one is fitness, and they said, okay, I want to make a goal to lose, 10 pounds. And so I'm going to go to the gym every day. And that's my New Year's resolution. They are more likely to fall off of that than if they said, I want to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to train for a 10K, and I'm going to sign up for it right now. That's in 2 months, and I'm going to run. So it's like, we want a deadline versus just this open-ended, do the activity to do the activity. So challenge, again, if it feels like a game or a puzzle or a challenge, again, the 5K might play into that. And then reward. We want dopamine now, not later. We want dopamine now, not later. And on our group call on Thursday, we're going to talk about the difference between dopamine and serotonin and how to play into those. That'll be interesting. But again, we want rewards now. So New Year's resolutions, a lot of times, have kind of vague goals. There's not as much urgency. There's not as much immediate reward. Sometimes there's too much effort up front. And so that just is not like, that's why most people drop off like by February. And this is everybody, not just ADHD. And so it's interesting. So, kind of the cycle that happens is like, okay, this time is different. Maybe like, and we'll say if we have ADHD, we've got a new planner, right? New apps I'm going to try. I got a new gym membership. So it's all shiny and new, and it feels really exciting. It's giving us dopamine. We have motivation. And then 2 to 3 weeks later, when it's not new anymore, the motivation drops and the dopamine stops producing or the brain stops producing the dopamine. And then that's when the shame kicks in, right? We feel like, man, I was so motivated, and then it fell off. And then we might feel ashamed, or we might feel bad about, and then we might be avoiding it, or just, well, I'll just miss this one day. And then we start to get, man, like I do this every year, or I can't do this, or I'm just not consistent. That's not who I am. And how, we can kind of go in that spiral. Then we quit, then we feel worse, or we avoid it, we don't even think about it, and then we repeat the thing next year. So that's what can happen sometimes. It's like that cycle. So it's not, again, this is not a character flaw. It's not about lack of discipline. This is a predictable neurochemical pattern, right? This is neurochemical because dopamine is the thing that gives us motivation. It's like the fuel to go, right? So when like the number one mistake people make with ADHD when they're setting a New Year's resolution is trying to change like who we are instead of how our environment works. Right. So we're trying to change who we are. I'm going to be more disciplined. I'm going to be more consistent. I'm going to get more organized. I'm going to get more motivated. Yes, like we can totally do that. And like we're capable of that. But if the plan is just about you being different instead of how do I also fix my environment to support my goals, it's going to be harder, right? It's going to be harder. And so when we're looking at like ADHD compatible goal setting, instead of I'm going to lose 30 pounds this year, we want to look at I'm going to create a system where movement and eating better happen automatically. Right. So I'm going to make this easier for myself to do that. So that might be, habit stacking, where you have your gym clothes in the car and you do it on the way home from work. So after work, you hit the gym for at least 10 minutes, no matter what. So we're not having to take the extra steps to leave the house, find the motivation, go. It's like right on the way to work, right? Something like that. Or I'm going to have some healthy snacks, or I'm going to get grocery delivery, something like that. Another one is I'm going to make $100,000 this year. We could totally do that. Or we could say, I'm going to build a daily system that creates money or creates leads coming in, or I'm going to set up my database without needing like this motivation every day that I need to find. Right. So it's like, we want to create systems around it versus just this raw discipline. I'm going to be different, and so also is the question, I'll do a screenshot on this, but resolutions versus intentions is kind of an interesting concept. Resolutions versus intentions, and you can do either one depending on which one feels good to you. But right here, this is a good example. So resolutions, we're focusing on achieving a specific outcome or measurable result. They might be rigid. They might not have as much flexibility, which we do well with some flexibility. And they can be all or nothing. They might be associated with pressure or urgency to succeed, or typically framed as like, we want to fix something, we want to change something. And they can lead to feelings of failure or frustration if they're not achieved perfectly. Whereas intentions are centered around like our values and our mindset and our overall approach. And they can be a bit more flexible and adaptable, allowing for changes. I'm going to give you an example here in a second. And it focuses on growth and progress rather than like perfection. And encourages self-compassion and understanding, even when things don't go as planned. And it motivates an ongoing process of alignment with like our core values. So think of resolutions are kind of like this, like kind of harsher discipline. I'm going to do this. Whereas intentions can give you a little bit more flex. So for example, our resolutions, like I'm going to lose, 10 pounds and I'm going to go to the gym every day and do this workout. And there's no exceptions. There's no excuses. Whereas intention might be, I would like to feel healthier in my body and I would like to lose 10 pounds, whatever that looks like. So I'm going to get movement in every day. And let's say, and I think too, resolutions are like very specific where intentions are around the overall objective. So if you set that objective that you want to lose 10 pounds and you have to go to the gym with intentions and you go to the gym and you start to lose momentum, it's go back to what is the objective. And so now maybe the gym is boring and you're not getting dopamine. So go for a walk every day, or join and do, I know people on here play pickleball, so it leaves a little bit of flex. So it's more about what is the objective that you're trying to achieve versus this one specific action that is the only way to do that. And then if you lose motivation, you got to get more disciplined or else we failed. Does that make sense? It's like not all it's not as much all or nothing. And so, but again, either one can work depending on how your brain works. We've got some people that really like more rigidity. It just depends on how your brain works, and that you're achieving the objective. So that's really what matters. So yeah, that ADHD compatible goal setting is going to be really important. So another thing that people do really well with is choosing a theme. So instead of something very specific, this one thing, it's kind of a theme for ourselves for the year, right? And it's almost like intention setting. So maybe the theme for the year for you is like self care, which could include building your business. I had a client who said this. They said lead generation was self care. Lead generation was self care, and that was probably the most profound thing I had heard in a long time. So, lead generation, meaning calling your clients, building your business, securing your income is self care. Because how stressful is it when you don't have income coming in? And so, when we think of lead generation or things like that in that frame, instead of I have to do this because I have to be disciplined, it's like, no, I'm going to do this because I care about myself. You can fit a lot of stuff into that theme. Another theme could be like family time, how you want to show up as a dad or as a mom or a spouse or just a son, a brother, a sister, a friend, a neighbor, those kind of things. And so when you have a theme, what you can do is then when you make choices, because if you're like me and a lot of us with ADHD, we can sometimes have decision paralysis. You have a theme to go back to say, is this in alignment with this theme? What's the choice that's going to support this theme at the highest level? So, for example, maybe your goal is just to be like the best realtor you can be this year. Maybe that's your theme. And then you have a choice of, do I, buy leads or do I work on my database? And then you think, okay, which one is in alignment with theme of being the best realtor I can be? Well, maybe that's like really showing up for my database. And that's what that looks like. And that's why, so we're looking at different avenues of motivation versus this, like, I've got to be harsh with myself, and the objective is the same. It's just a different avenue versus this like harshness achievement culture that sometimes can work. But I know that some people on here are burned out with that. So I'm giving you some alternatives of how to hit goals without discipline, discipline, discipline. The other thing, we want to keep things simple, right? We want to keep them simple. We want to allow for maximum flexibility in how we approach them. We want to minimize the pressure to perform specific tasks, but we still want to know what the action item is, or the date, or the deadline, or the challenge, which this is going to reduce the chance of our like guilt tripping ourselves. And remember, we can go into all or nothing like pass fail mentality. That's an easy thing to do for us. We either did it or we didn't. It's either perfect or I'm not going to start at all. I either am awesome or I'm failing. And so watch out for that all or nothing thinking, and maybe go for good enough, or as they say, 1% better each day. And so here are some more themes that you could look at. So number one is relationship satisfaction, whichever type of relationship that is. Mental health is another theme. Physical health, work-life balance, mindfulness, financial stability is a good theme. I think especially for a lot of us, motivation, and then executive function. That's another one, is how do I work on my executive function? So that's another really good one. Work-life balance. This is a cool one as well. So blocking off your calendar with personal time, identifying most common challenges that you face with working too much, and figure out how to help with those and put systems in place. Maybe a cue card with things that kind of signify it's time to move to the next thing, or why you're stopping work, why that matters. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. Now, just a couple things. Self-care with this is going to be a lot easier to hit these. So make sure you're eating. I know that's like a simple one, but our executive function is going to go really low if we have low blood sugar. That's a thing. Make sure you're moving out the things that might distract you. That's a really important thing as well. So a couple things with this. So ADHD friendly New Year's resolutions or goal setting must have. Do short time horizons like 7, 14, 30 days, not 12 months. Like break it down. If you've heard of the 4-week year, did I say that right? The 7 days, 14 days, 30 days. Use visible tracking like a whiteboard, habit app, like a paper chart, something kinesthetic that you can touch and see. Get external accountability like a group, a coach, a friend, some kind of public commitment, and then the immediate reward, like dopamine today, not someday when it works. Like, what's your reward today? And then another thing that works for people is replacing the word resolutions with kind of experiments. So instead of I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week all year, it's for the next 14 days, I'm going to test out how I feel with 20 minutes of movement, you know, because we thrive on experiments, curiosity, play, kind of, playing things out. Whereas if it's forever, if it's perfection, if it's pressure, if it's, that kind of stuff, it's harder. Other thing you can do is 90-day cycles. So maybe pick like 1 to 3 focus areas and build some systems around that, measure what worked, drop what didn't, and then the next 90 days, you're going to reset. So this big ominous, like, I'm going to do this for the next 12 months can be a little bit heavier. So that the 90-day cycle is going to keep novelty high. It's going to help with burnout, and it's going to keep the dopamine going. So just couple traps that can happen with ADHD New Year's resolutions is this all or nothing thinking, perfectionism, over planning, too many goals, waiting to feel motivated. And just know motivation for us is going to come with the result of action, right? Once we get started, things are going to be a lot easier. And then what actually works, right? Environmental design. Make sure you're creating an environment that supports what you're doing. Habit stacking, I've touched on that a little bit, but pairing something that you're already doing with something you want to do. So an example of that is if this is a great one. I don't know if she might be on the call, but this one was really cool. Is if you drink coffee every day, it's something you do every day, no matter what, right? And you're going to do it. Pair it with something and that you want to do that takes discipline or whatever, right? So she drinks her coffee, and then right when she's done with her coffee, she gets to text 10 people. Like that's just how it is. Instead of, well, I got to use this motivation to get going. No, you're going to have it, stack it to something else that you do every day so you don't have to remember. And then you may not need a very rigid time because you always drink coffee at different times, but you're still going to get the 10 contacts done, texts. Remove things that distract you, give dopamine friendly rewards. And again, it's not about willpower, shame, guilt, or trying harder. It's not about that. So really the real like question for this new year is, like, who do I want to be? Like, how do I want to show up? And what systems are going to help achieve this when my motivation is gone? Like, that's really going to help you. What's your fallback system when you don't have the dopamine flowing and you want to keep it going? So systems are going to help you. You have a couple of things there that are really going to help you. And then also, if you fall off, know that's normal. So it's not about never falling off. It's about getting back up. So this is the last thing I'll say with this is we are going to fall off with just about everything at least once or twice. And that's okay. That's normal. So what do you do to get back on? So if your New Year's resolution is, or your goal, and you do it and you do it, and then you fall off for a week or two or a month, oh my gosh, that's okay. Start back. You missed a month, but hey, you got 11 months out of 12 months. Like that's great. You know what I mean? Or maybe you get 6 months out of 12 months. That's great too. So if you fall off, just expect it. And that's okay. So that's my content. Thank you for being here. And then if you're in our group coaching, we'll see you Thursday, which will be really cool. And you can go to ADHDtyler.com to find that as well. And so we'll talk about our dopamine detox. But otherwise, happy New Year's resolution. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And we'll talk to you next time.